What's going on, guys? I'm Tim Kelly, joined today by Mike McGarry of the Press of Atlantic City. This is Phillies Stoplight, brought to you by Wapner Newman. And Mike, it's not going to be so nice on Saturday, but it was a very nice day today for opening day. You couldn't ask for much better. 76 degrees on in the 250th anniversary of Philly on opening day. I mean, it felt like a storybook thing.
Yeah, and the Phillies brought out the colonial representation. We had Phil and Phyllis made an appearance from the 70s. Betsy Ross was out there, Benjamin Franklin, and you got a Phillies win. And, you know, obviously 161 games to go. But as Alec Bohm said, you can't go 162-0 if you don't win the first one.
That's true. I'm not sure how I feel about Phil and Phyllis. I got to get back to you because I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of them this year. You won't have to go to whatever that
storybook,
whatever
the
theme park was that they were at. But Alec Bohm, I think, comes away as a story today. First of all, in like the third inning today, buzz starts going around about this story in the Inquirer, and I go through and look, and it's very detailed reporting, and I would advise you to go read it because I don't have a full summary right in front of me. But essentially, he's suing his parents, it appears, for misappropriating funds, that mismanaging his money. They were in charge of his money, and you have to feel for the guy. I mean, I remember his mom being at different games and up on the big screen, him talking about one year about how much his mom means to him and everything, and now to be in this situation, it's brutal, but he comes through today with a 3-run home run. So it's a weird day. He declined to talk about it, unsurprisingly, after the game. It's one of those things you have to ask, but you don't really expect an answer.
Right.
And you didn't get an answer. But it's a huge year for Alec Bohm, given that it's a contract year, that he's hitting cleanup. But now you throw this on top of it. It has to be a difficult time for him.
Yeah, he's very much at the crossroads this season, baseball-wise, and he seems to have, again, some off-the-field issues, too, that you kind of feel for him, you know, having to work through. And I just thought in that fifth inning, I thought, you know, this was the first time we had seen the Phillies on the field in a meaningful game since the Dodgers Game 4. And my mind, I don't know about you, but in that fifth inning, I flashed back to the playoffs, right? Justin Crawford gets a single to lead off. Trey Turner gets a single. So the setup guys have done their part. Here comes the heart of the Phillies order. Kyle Schwarber strikes out. Bryce Harper strikes out. In my mind, I'm going back to the playoffs. How many times in the Phillies in the postseason, the past 3 to 4 years, have been in this situation before and not come through? Here comes Alec Bohm. All the debate about him. Is he a cleanup hitter? Should he be hitting cleanup? And he goes opposite field. It's a 3-run home run. Phillies up 5-0 on their way to a win. Nobody says you're going to make up for postseason failures with a big hit on opening day, but you'd rather have the big hit on opening day than not. So Bohm is a guy at the crossroads this season. And again, it's only one game, but you'd rather have him get off to a good start, and maybe he can carry it through.
Yeah, and very similar in a lot of senses today was to opening day 2023 in Texas. I was there, and Alec Bohm hits like a first or second inning opposite field home run off of Jacob deGrom that time. They get out to a 5-0 lead, and then they blew it and lost the game. Didn't happen today. It got a little dicey in the ninth inning. Kyle Backus, a guy I was pretty excited for, he got crushed today. Jake Berger came through, and that was one of the big concerns with him, is getting out left-handed or getting out right-handed batters. So when he allowed Corey Seager to get on right before that, and then Jake Berger stepped up and just hit a no-doubter off of him. So you don't bury a guy after one appearance, but it can get late early when you're a reliever with options. So that's kind of something to watch.
Right, especially the way teams tend to churn through the bullpen today. They like receivers with options. They almost like, I know they carry, 13 pitchers, but almost as like total organizational-wise, you might have 16, 17 guys that you're kind of shuffling the back 4 or 5 into that bullpen. So, yeah, Backus didn't have it today, but overall a lot to be positive about. One of the things that kind of struck me was there's a lot of debate about the Phillies lineup after the first 3 guys. I thought today that lineup showed some depth. Not only did you have Bohm hit the home run, but Bryson Stott had a base hit, a couple of good at-bats. Brandon Marsh had a double, and, of course, the rookie Justin Crawford with 2 hits in his debut. So I thought the Phillies – look, to me, I thought the Phillies reminded me that they are a very good baseball team today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of the concern you have is, okay, you have this lineup against right-handed pitchers. It's maybe not as – Brandon Marsh is a really good hitter against righties. you see a lefty come in and he strikes out today, and really he's not going to be playing against lefties most of the time. So is this lineup as good against lefties as it is against righties? And I still think there's a debate to be had about whether Brandon Marsh should probably be hitting fifth against against right-handed pitchers right now, in my mind. But the big takeaway in terms of the lineup today, of course, Kyle Schwarber hit a home run.
Right.
Like it would have been surprising if he didn't step up and lead the game or hit the home run in the first inning. It's just picking up where you left off. And
right.
It feels like a matter of when, not if. He's at 500 home runs, the pace that he's been at.
Yeah. It really is unbelievable. He said shades of 2022, right, when he made his debut and hit a home run in the first inning of that game. The only thing surprising about his home run today was it was opposite field.
Yeah.
That's about it. He didn't crush one off the second deck. In right field, he went opposite field. So, and that's a good sign. And a good sign that Bohm, went opposite field too. That means they're not trying to do too much. They're feeling good at the plate. They're seeing the ball well. They're letting it travel in, and they've got the strength to take it out to the opposite field. So, yeah, Kyle Schwarber, just another day and another Schwarbomb. Again, the only surprising thing is that it went out to left field instead of right.
Yeah, no, for sure. But if you're going to draw up a swing of an opposite field home run, that's kind of exactly how you would do it. So just continue to be amazed by Kyle Schwarber. But Justin Crawford, impressive today in his major league debut. He only had, I think, one ball hit at him the whole game in the outfield, but comes up with 2 singles, and that's what you're expecting out of Justin Crawford. If he hits 7 home runs this year, I'll be surprised. This is a contact hitter, and that's fine when he's hitting 9th. I mean, down the road, you may want him to develop some more pop, but in terms of his rookie year, I think what you saw today, 2 hits right back up the middle, and teams are going to make adjustments to him, and that's part of getting there. But not only the 2 hits, but Rob Thompson talked, and Kyle Schwarber talked about it after the game. Even though he didn't attempt to steal today, he puts pressure on teams with his speed. And you saw it offensively. The third baseman is cheating in almost immediately in anticipation of a possible bunt. So that makes it, if he just hits the ball relatively hard to that side of the field, it's probably going to be a single. But 2 back up the middle today, just an impressive debut from him.
Yeah, and the knock on him, right, or the knock we heard about him was that he hits the ball on the ground, right?
Yeah.
But he had 2 ground ball singles up the middle. And for up until about 10 years ago, that was the prototypical way a guy with speed kind of played this game. He put the ball on the ground, used his speed, beat out infield hits, hit the ball back up the middle, hard on the ground. That's what he did today. And he kind of did, the lineup worked in that 5th inning because he bats 9th, but he's kind of a dual leadoff hitter. So he led off that 5th inning with a single. Then Trey Turner comes up with a single. Now the table is set for the big guys to come up. Schwarber and Harper strike out, but Bohm hits the home run. So the lineup worked the way it was supposed to today. And again, if Jordan Crawford, they'll settle for that. Justin Crawford, I always make that mistake. Justin Crawford, did what he was supposed to do today. 2 ground ball hits, made the play in the outfield. He doesn't have to do too much in that lineup, so he was perfect today.
No, and I almost feel like he's more valuable hitting 9th than he would be 7th.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this is something Rob Thompson talked about after the game. He's going to have to find the balance of, you have this speed and the strides are huge. How much do you want to push it, though, when you have Turner, Schwarber, and Harper coming? That's a real debate. But I think one of the other realities, it didn't come into play today necessarily, but he's a guy that can easily go first to home. If Turner puts the ball in the gap, and you're not going to have to worry about there's a lot of 9 hitters you'd be worrying about Trey Turner, like catching them on the bases. You're not going to have to worry about that with Justin Crawford. So, look, you can only make so much out of opening day, but I think, I guess he could have come through in that bases loaded situation later. It would have been a great opening day, but I still think it was a very good opening day for Justin Crawford. And there's excitement. He got one of the loudest cheers before the game. People here, as much as the Phillies have made some incredible free agent signings and trades, it's been a long time since you've consistently developed young talent. And I think there is an excitement between him and Andrew Painter. We'll see what happens with Aiden Miller down the line. But with those two breaking camp and starting the season with the team.
Yeah, there's nothing better in baseball, right, than watching a homegrown guy come up and succeed. That's what made the 07 to 11 team, in addition to the fact that they won, that's what made them so special, is that they were homegrown. There's nothing like you draft them, you follow him through the minors, and then he comes up here at Citizens Bank Park and delivers. And you're right with the speed. He might not have the stolen bases total that you might think a guy of his speed might have at the end of the season. But if he's on first base and the first baseman has to hold him on, that creates a big hole on the right side of the infield for left-handed hitters like Schwarber and Harper to kind of drive the ball through. So, yeah, all around today, you got to give Crawford, Justin or Jordan an A
JP,
for how he played
Carl,
today.
give everyone with the last name.
Exactly.
Joey, who I saw roughing Jack Fritz's loss earlier this week. But no, I think a great start for him. Also a great start and for Christopher Sanchez. And it's getting to the point, obviously we don't take it for granted as much now with Zach Wheeler that he's been out, but just got to a point where you expected Zach Wheeler to just go 6 or 7, 2 runs or less every single time out. And it's getting to that point with Christopher Sanchez where I don't want to say you take it for granted, but that's what you're expecting coming into the start. If something different plays out, so be it. But Sanchez has become a guy that you expect that going in. And the only guy that finished above him last year in the Cy Young race was Paul Skeens. And Paul Skeens put himself in a little bit of a hole. I don't underestimate his ability to climb out of it today, but I think there is a mission with Christopher Sanchez. And you see it with him, even more so than some other guys. There is like an appreciation. Him and the Phillies organization are like at their peak love for each other right now. The contract, everything. He was at the What's New in the Ballpark event the other night because they had a sandwich or something named after him this season. So he feels so comfortable, and you can see it talking to him and watching him on the mound. Yeah,
he's just grown. Even in his post-game press conferences, he just has a confidence, a presence about him. He's got a presence in that clubhouse that he didn't have a couple of years ago. When he enters the clubhouse, you kind of feel like the vibe in there has changed or something, and that's because of what he's been able to achieve. And again, you talk about taking for granted. We're about a couple of minutes into this, and we've talked Schwarber, we've talked Bohm, we've talked Crawford, and we get to Sanchez, who threw 6 shutout innings, struck out 10, allowed just 3 hits. 2 of those were seeing eye singles in the second inning. He was even more dominant than his stat line would indicate. And again, it really remains one of the remarkable stories in all of baseball of where this guy has come to where he was kind of like Nuke LaRouche from Bull Durham, throwing the ball off the backstop when he first got here to Philadelphia, to now being a legitimate Cy Young candidate and one of the aces of the game. And when you have starting pitching like that, when you have him going to the mound every 5th day, boy, you're going to have a good baseball team because you're going to stay out of losing streaks with guys like that.
Well, I remember being back in the dark days of Zoom, very early in Christopher Sanchez's career, and it was a West Coast game, and I stayed up and did the Zoom post game, and like 2:00 in the morning, and I think it was San Francisco or something. Obviously, we weren't there, but I talked to Bryce Harper, and I asked him about. I was impressed at that point with Bailey Falter, who had just come up, and he said, "Yeah, I'm impressed." But then he went out of his way to talk about how impressed he was with Christopher Sanchez, and at that time, I was just like, "Oh, yeah, whatever, he's being nice." But I look back at that moment now, and I'm like, "Oh, he saw something." Right. And he was a big fan of Ranger Suarez early on, so Bryce Harper kind of spotted the talent, and we've seen it really since halfway through the 2023 season, how good he's been. And now you get 2 more excellent pitching matchups. I don't think the Rangers have a good enough overall team to maybe they can compete for the playoffs. They're certainly not a World Series contender, but their top talent is really good, and you're going to see it on display. Obviously, Nathan Eovaldi has been around for a long time, pitched today. Game 2 is if I had to guess the pitching matchup I've seen the most in covering the Phillies, Aaron Nola versus Jacob deGrom is probably pretty high. But I look forward to Jacob deGrom every time because I say it like at his best, he was as gifted as any pitcher I've ever seen, and had a long stretch with injuries, but came back and was an all-star last year. So you have that matchup in Game 2. And then Game 3, you go to the lefties of Jesus Luzardo against Mackenzie Gore. So really great pitching matchups to round out this series.
And a great test for the Phillies lineup right off the bat, right? And guys came out of spring training hitting the ball well. Stott came out hitting the ball well. Bohm came out hitting the ball well. They kept it up today. It's a good test for the Phillies team. Look, no one is saying they're going to make up for what has happened in October the past 4 years in the regular season. But it was good to see them get that clutch hit today that they haven't got in the postseason before. You can only win the game in front of you today, and obviously they can't eradicate all their playoff sort of misfortune until they take that step in October. But you got to show signs along the way. You're not just going to flip a switch in October. And it was good today to see that situation in the fifth inning that had hurt them so much in the postseason. It was good for them to see Bohm kind of turn that, hit a 3-run home run. Bohm needed it, and I believe the team needed it, because I still think there was a little hangover for the fans and for the players after last year's Dodgers series. And I think today, you started to feel, cleanse sort of what went on and realize, hey, this is a new year and we can go forward from here.
Yeah, and like you said, there's nothing you can do. There's a large percentage of the fan base that is wake me up in October. Even if they're watching the games, they're still kind of like, I'll enjoy it, but nothing matters till October. And I've said that I think that's a terrible way to consume sports, but it is what it is. And like you said, you can only control what's in front of you. They did that today, and now they'll get the day after opening day off day. They'll come back, and you got 5 in a row then between the Rangers and the Nationals to round out this homestand. So that will do it for this episode. Check out Mike's work on Press of Atlantic City. Thank you to Wapner Newman for sponsoring this video, and we'll talk to you guys next time.